finally, we see the post. Directed by Steven Spielberg.
Son of a bitch!
And starring none other than Meryl Streep, also a guy named Tom Hanks, who is Colin Hanks' dad.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know his dad acted.
You remember the cinematic classic Orange County, made by MTV Films.
Bob, I'm moving your chair.
Of course, it's my favorite movie.
His dad is in
Really?
this. Yeah, and he's done a couple of things.
Oh, no, yeah. He was in The Money Pit.
Oh!
Yeah.
I almost forgot about The Money Pit, which I don't know how you...
How do you forget about
that?
The Money Pit? Or Volunteers, he was in that too.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I've got the criterion of that.
Yeah. It's a shame he doesn't do more. I gotta tell you, we can't beat a dead horse forever, so we're gonna finally go see The Post this week. For real, we're not BSing you. We're gonna go see The Post, and we're putting an end to these petty Meryl Streep jokes.
No.
No.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, I gotta tell you.
He's at a church convention in Townsville.
My grandma was watching the show.
Yeah.
And she called me crying.
Why didn't she call you Ben?
And she said, Ben, I'm dying of a horrible disease. And also I watched your show and I wasn't nuts about the Meryl Streep jokes. And I thought, well, you know, Grandma, it's satire, it's comedy. You know, we like Meryl Streep. A lot. Shit. You know, we're joking, of course. And
Of course.
you know,
Yeah, all in good fun.
all in good fun, but today we're going to see The Post, and I'm so confident that this movie is going to be so good.
Oh, I think it's going to be
And she's
just an absolute slam dunk. There's nothing like a Steven Spielberg newspaper drama to really, like, reinvigorate my love of film.
So, where do you sit on Spielberg? Where
I mean, usually I sit on Spielberg. I don't watch his movies.
Fuck.
I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. I haven't seen a Steven Spielberg movie since War of the Worlds. So
I can maybe see why that might be the
why
case.
I'm a little burnt on Steven Spielberg a little bit.
To be fair, that movie is like 17 years old now, so maybe time to see a new Steven Spielberg film. Because I would say this, I'm not a huge fan of every single movie that Steven Spielberg does. But as a connoisseur of films, I really hate to use that term, but I
really hate that you use that term,
We're
too.
on the fly here, and that was the first thing that came to my mind. But as somebody
staying in.
who critiques films and watches them, I don't think you can really dismiss him overall.
No, you certainly can't.
Because whether you like him or you hate him, the guy does have a unique visual style at the Hollywood big budget level, where a lot of other guys at that level are just kind of doing paint by numbers cinema.
Save Martha!
And really, Spielberg was a trailblazer.
He's
for
the
a lot.
director's director. I mean, he's when people of all levels of film appreciation think of a director, he's probably one of the first names that pops up. And he's been all over the map as far as genre, as far as technical ability, as far as scope of the films themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's certainly not a bad director. He has stinkers, but, you know, and he also has some very good movies.
Yeah.
Some of the things that people think are very good movies, I don't really agree with. But that's a conversation that we just don't have time for in this video. I don't think, because,
I mean, his career spans at least 40 years. By this point.
I don't even. Yeah.
And I've lost count of how many films he's done, but it's
He probably has too.
yeah,
honestly.
it's very, very many, and that is a testament to his ability to kind of stay working. I don't think he's ever lost money on a film. I can't imagine he has. I mean, some of my favorite films from him are kind of the more just rooted drama films. Like, I really like The Color Purple. I liked Munich. I mean, Munich does have a few action-y elements in it, but it was a really well-executed film, and Eric Bana's performance in it was really good. I will say he does know how to get pretty great performances out of guys like Tom Hanks. Him and Tom Hanks have worked together on probably a dozen movies or so by now.
I've lost count. The last thing I saw them work together on was Catch Me If You Can? Or The Terminal. I can't remember which one came out later.
Yeah, I saw Bridge of Spies, which came out a couple of years ago.
Still the most unintentionally funny title I've ever heard.
Yeah, I liked it, though. It was a good movie, and it was another movie of his that was kind of a quieter drama. There wasn't a whole lot of action-packed sequences. It was more suspense-driven, and because he never gets away. You know, I don't think you'll ever see a day where Spielberg does the plotless anti-plot movie.
I don't see a Spielberg mumblecore movie in the works.
Yeah, he's really all about kind of keeping the stakes ramped up throughout the course of the movie and making it a singular goal for a singular protagonist.
Well, that's what makes his movies so palatable for everybody, because he's like the Coca-Cola of filmmakers, is that it may not be everybody's favorite, but everybody can enjoy it. And that's Spielberg. When you have a large group of people with a lot of different interests and a lot of different tastes, it's pretty safe to say that you can talk everybody into going to see Steven Spielberg over, X, Y, or Z other filmmakers' film. Yeah.
And in all fairness, I mean, The Post, at least around our area, it's been in that theater now for about 2 months. So that's a lot of staying power.
Yeah.
Which means it sells that many tickets week after week to
stay in.
To justify staying at a cinema. And I'll tell you, nowadays, if something stays at a cinema past 3 weeks, I mean, you've done pretty well.
Unless it's got a cape or a lightsaber,
or if it's a James Cameron movie. I mean, his movies will stay there for 6 months sometimes. They're just enormously...
They basically sign a lease for the room.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you, as skeptical as I am and as kind of melodramatic as I kind of expect Meryl Streep to be in this movie.
No!
I always kind of look forward to a Spielberg movie, even if I end up not loving it, just because it's always good to to me, I made fun of the kind of person who does this a couple episodes, I think in the first episode, but it is kind of the sort of thing where you can walk in with a bag of popcorn. And I'm going to have my popcorn and
And just your Coca-Cola.
Kick back, and you don't have to think too much about what's going on.
Yeah, be taken on a ride.
And sometimes, I think, bottom line, sometimes with Spielberg, that can turn out great.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can turn out so-so, and then sometimes it can just turn out really bad. Like, I'm one of those few people that I really just don't think that Schindler's List is that amazing.
That's
of a movie.
exactly why I wanted to have another conversation. Because I kind of agree.
I don't really think building up suspense about whether or not Jewish people are going to get gassed in a shower is in the best taste.
I don't think action movie and suspense movie tropes are necessarily appropriate to apply to the fucking Holocaust.
And
maybe that's just my taste.
I say that fully understanding that I am not Jewish and that Steven Spielberg is, but I can't get away from it. I think it's kind of in poor taste, some of the things that are in that movie.
Private Ryan was too saccharine, honestly. Like, it's obviously a well-photographed and very technically well-made movie, but you have a really cool shootout, and then you stop, and Colin Hanks' dad makes a speech, and then you have another shootout, and you stop, and Colin Hanks' dad makes a speech, and then it just repeats this, and it's like, I can only handle so much melodrama before I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And I think, too, what happened with Saving Private Ryan is, admittedly, at the time it came out, there's kind of really nothing quite like it. I don't think a war movie had really been that violent prior to it. And because it was so violent, the general reaction from critics and the audience was, oh my god, it's so realistic and da-da-da-da-da. But I feel like as that movie ages, which I watched it again just a couple of years ago, it makes the violence seem that much more like kind of exploitative. And I guess I really meant to get on this whole exploiting true events kind of tirade simply to say I'm anxious to see how he does the material in the post.
I skimmed the Wikipedia overview, and I mean, it's about the same thing as any newspaper movie, honestly. A group of journalists find an important dossier of information pertaining to the Vietnam War, and there are some forces that act against them publishing it. And, okay, cool, fine, whatever. Every newspaper movie is basically the same. And I don't really
do I feel a prediction round coming on?
I'll do a lightning round.
Okay.
Where I think I can pretty much call this one beat for beat. Because, I mean, I've seen this movie before. That's the only thing. Is like, I know I've already seen this movie. You're going to have an intrepid journalist who catches a hot take, but doesn't quite have all the information. So he goes up to the hard-boiled editor, and the editor says, well, this is a respectable paper, and, you have to have all your facts first because our reputation's on the line. So he or she does more digging, and all of a sudden a shadowy government figure or some antagonist says, you better stop investigating or bad things will happen. So he ignores him and pretty much continues to dig. Maybe there's a threat of physical violence. Maybe, some kind of blackmail shows up at his doorstep. Who knows? But eventually you're going to have the scene that they all have where...
Oh, wait. Let me call it. Where they're maybe in a basement with a flashlight and they're opening up drawers.
File drawers?
And they find one singular item that puts the whole thing together.
That puts the whole thing together. Mm-hmm. It's going to either be that, or they're in a library looking at old newspapers.
Oh, and it's scanning through on the computer monitor.
On those things that you had to dial up. Or, they're at a desk with reading glasses, and all of a sudden they take the glasses off and their eyes go wide. It's going to have a scene like that where, that they get that Rosetta Stone of the story.
Yeah.
They run to the editor, and the editor goes, we have to get this out. And then, however you choose to resolve the movie, you're going to have the scene at the end where everybody's sitting there with their hands on their hips. Like,
what? I actually think in the trailer I remember seeing Meryl Streep with her hands on her hips. And I think she has the biggest hips in the movie. After today, we are done with the Meryl Streep jokes, so gotta get them in now. Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Let's do this with our hands on our hips, baby.
No!
He's at a church convention in Townsville.
We'll see ya after the post.
So, can I ask you a hypothetical question?
Oh, dear, I don't like hypothetical questions.
Well, I don't think you're gonna like the real one either.
Do you have the papers?
Not yet.
This is a devastating security breach that was leaked out of the Pentagon. The most highly classified documents of the war.
The Times has 7,000 pages detailing how the White House has been lying about the Vietnam War for 30 years. The way they lied, those days have to be over.
Okay, people are concerned about having a woman in charge of the paper. That she doesn't have the resolve to make the tough choices.
Thank you, Arthur, for your frankness.
Let's do our jobs. Find those pages.
You're talking about exposing years of government secrets.
Is that legal?
What is it you think we do here for a living, kid?
Ben, I might have something.
It must be precious cargo.
It's just government secrets.
The New York Times was barred from publishing any more classified documents dealing with the Vietnam War.
If you publish, we'll be at the Supreme Court next week.
Meaning,
Well, we could all go to prison.
To make this decision, to risk her fortune and the company that's been her entire life, well, I think that's brave.
If the government wins, the Washington Post will cease to exist.
If we don't hold them accountable, who will?
we can't hold them accountable if we don't have a newspaper.
Nixon will muster the full power of the presidency, and if there's a way to destroy you, by God, he'll find it.
I'm asking your advice, Bob, not your permission.
She can't do this.
The legacy of the company is at stake.
What will happen if we don't publish? We will lose. The country will lose. What are you going to do, Mrs. Graham?
Well, we're back from the post. And I will say this. The best unintentional comedy I have seen in years. This one was a hot mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we were making fun of this movie a couple weeks ago, and you said, I just love that safe Oscar bait
storyline.
I don't even think it qualifies as that.
Well, because it would have to have a storyline.
It's so convoluted.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. It would be a lot easier to start a review by saying, well, let's boil down the plot. And
I'm trying to figure out where to start, because the movie begins with some shots of the Vietnam War that are that don't relate to one another when edited together.
No,
it was just generic shots of war, and people are out there getting shot. And then
remember Vietnam?
And then it cuts to a guy typing on a typewriter.
Yeah.
And then that's it. We never go back to Vietnam again. It was just
of no consequence to anything.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a running theme of today's episode. Some documents get stolen from a file cabinet. Check.
I think we just checked all of the things.
Yeah. This movie massacred the checklist.
Yeah.
I mean, almost comically so.
And in case you didn't notice that they did a trope, they did it at least three or four more times throughout the film, just to really drive it home that this was about a newspaper and the importance of the press.
Newspapers. Did you know that freedom of the press is important?
I don't know anymore. I did not know what the fuck was going on for the first hour. All of the dialogue was a million miles a minute, and it was info dumping, but what info? I don't know.
The problem with the info dumping is that there was scene after scene after scene of characters talking over each other. What would normally be background chatter.
Yeah.
But it was Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks
and
together.
three other people.
All info dumping while literally jumping over each other's lines as though they were chattering.
Yeah.
And you're thinking okay, well, the scene starts this way. We're going to pick up a thread of a conversation, and that's what this scene's going to be about.
Yeah,
but it's not. They just chatter over each other. You can't pick anything out. You're not sure what the scene is trying to accomplish, and then it just goes to another scene.
I just don't know what the hell anybody wanted in this movie.
Because they wanted to publish a thing about Vietnam, a bunch of classified documents, and trust me, we get that, because they made sure you knew that the documents are classified, that the big government men are there to stop them.
They're also top secret. I can't imagine they actually stamp top secret documents with a large thing that
with
says
a big
top
rubber
secret.
stamp. It's the kind of thing a comedy movie would make fun of, but it was doing it completely unironically, and it had me in hysterics more than once. I mean, it was really hard for me not to break out laughing during this movie.
Parts where you're not really supposed to be laughing at all.
No.
And then the parts where you are supposed to be laughing, all of the humor was like humor written for extremely elderly people, but there were a lot of elderly people in the audience, and it went over their heads too.
Yeah, and we're not saying that this is one of those few times where we're not being edgy and making fun of old people. The humor was pandering.
Yeah,
in fact, the whole movie was.
It really was a very just let's aim for the lowest common denominator
of that 45 to 80 demo. You know, it was trying to cast a real wide net, and from the reaction I got of people walking out of that theater, I think it missed.
Yeah,
because it was
I've been wondering why we haven't heard more buzz about the movie, and now I think I know why.
Oh, yeah.
Because it really is not buzzworthy at all.
It was mismarketed as a drama.
Yeah, it was. Dare I say, Meryl Streep was honestly the best part of this movie.
Surprisingly, yeah.
Because she was the only one out of anybody that actually dialed it down to a normal human being level.
Ish.
Everybody had moments. Yeah, everybody had moments of just really cheesy monologue or.
Well, there was lots of conversation where she talked with this odd and overly proper. Every single scene was.
Yeah, and she was way less guilty of it than everybody else, though. Tom Hanks was. I like Tom Hanks a lot, and he's obviously a really talented actor. But this is just not his time to shine at all.
His accent was all over the place and bad at the same time.
Yeah, when it was it was bad.
Yeah,
but sometimes he would walk into the scene and he'd sound like Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and there was no real consistency between scenes. It would flip-flop back and forth just kind of freely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of everybody. I thought whoever they had playing Richard Nixon was hysterical.
Yeah.
Because it was such a Richard Nixon impression.
Well, and like Watergate is one of the big things that I love Watergate. I love Watergate. Like I have all kinds of books on it, and I read about it and all that stuff. And really, I mean, there are very few redeeming qualities to the actual person Richard Nixon, in my opinion. But even this movie went so just
cartoonish
on the nose about it, and it was just like
no, they literally had a shot outside the White House,
zoomed in,
dollying in,
and
on him like his back is hunched and he's on the phone like this, pointing down and giving instructions to his henchmen, and it's like, am I being fucked with?
Yeah, it's like Dr. Evil. Or Richard Nixon,
it was literally like a cartoony 1960s Bond knockoff villain.
Yeah.
And the problem, everybody is like that in this movie, though. Everybody.
Yeah, everybody has terrible old-timey accents.
Yeah. I mean, Bob Odenkirk tried.
Yeah, Bob Odenkirk was, I think he probably did the best he could with what he had given to him.
He was given a really dumb, out-of-place slapstick scene where he dumps a bunch of change and drops a payphone and all this. It was supposed to be funny at a moment where he's learning the pivotal piece of information. Remember how we talked about how that would probably happen? Bob Odenkirk finds it, but it's supposed to be a fairly serious thing, and he's like dropping the payphone and his change goes everywhere and someone throws a pie in his face and it just, all of the tension disappears and there's nobody laughed, nobody leaned forward, nothing. There was nothing. I was sitting there watching a movie.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but notice because one good mark I guess I would give the movie is that it looked good. Janusz Kaminski was back as a cinematographer. He works with Spielberg all the time, and the shots themselves, removed from the context of the movie, looked nice.
I mean, yeah, I would almost say that they were a little bit too polished.
Well, the problem that I was going to get at is that it's this very, like, Spielberg-y direction of the camera for a story that just really didn't qualify that. It would have been much better if you had just like a lockdown camera in a quiet room, and God forbid people make it through a whole conversation without standing up at the dramatic parts and then walking around the room five times.
And then the camera dollies in through some desks and around them.
If you've seen like one of those old kind of reproductions of an old Greek drama, one of the things in Greek drama a lot of the times is that as the emotions rise, because they were performed on stage, everybody moves around the stage because it kind of emphasizes the drama. This movie does that to a really cheesy degree.
Yeah, it goes too far.
As if it's like a stage play, but it's not. It's a movie.
There's a lot of times where it feels like a stage play.
Yeah, but like a poorly directed one.
Yeah, because for all of, like, it's very aggressively directed, even though the whole movie feels very 2D. Like, everything is, all of the shots are very flat, people standing at 3/4 of each other like we're doing now.
Yeah.
Which is not, if I notice it, it's bad. Because remember, you're supposed to be immersed in a movie. As soon as I realize I'm watching a movie...
This whole movie felt
produced.
The only indication you have of these characters is when they decide to do really weepy monologues that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Which I don't care about a single character.
No,
in this
I don't.
movie.
I mean, no, I can't say I do. And honestly, it got to a point where I didn't even care about, like, oh, we're fighting for the First Amendment and all that. I was like, just shut up. Just shut up. I was so tired of the movie itself that I didn't care at all. Like, he managed to let that slip out from my emotional involvement.
I feel like that the movie and the people writing it and the people making it didn't know what was most important. Was it the First Amendment? Was it the women's lib movement?
Was it the perils of a family business?
It kind of dips into this thing where it's like, oh, well, Meryl Streep kind of by happenstance inherited this newspaper and she wasn't sure what she was doing. And, this took place in the 70s when definitely there were issues with, like, women in the workplace having a voice in the workplace, being taken seriously by men. But even that was just so, like, on the nose and two-dimensional that I didn't care about that either.
I mean, I think there was actually literally a line along the lines of like, well, do you think that you're capable of running this newspaper because you're a woman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all it was missing is, like, a stare straight into the camera to be, an old Zucker Brothers movie, like Airplane or Naked Gun or something like that. I mean, it was that hokey.
Yeah, it was really hokey. It was really weird. And I just could not... The movie never escaped being a complete mess. No. It would begin a scene, then cross-cut to some other scene, and then it would run those two in parallel, but there was no real reason to do that.
No, and then neither scene really had an objective.
Like, it could have been good. Like, I think the movie could have been good if it was just written and directed by different people. You could have...
So if it was a completely
I mean, the subject matter of the movie could have been all right.
Well, but funny enough, the writers and the subject matter, because if you will look, written by Liz Hannah, who is literally nobody, and Josh Singer, who... strangely enough, wrote Spotlight. How weird is that?
Now I feel like we gotta watch that movie.
I honestly, if Spotlight is as unintentionally hilarious as this is, I'm down. Because you know what? I have not laughed this hard at a movie in a long time.
Yeah.
And because this movie is honestly hysterical for the wrong reasons. There is one scene in particular that still sticks out to me where Bob Odenkirk finally finds his source, and so he's got the documents that they've been looking for that's going to blow this story up. So he's got them in boxes, and he's bringing them into the office. And it cuts to a shot looking straight up of this box, and it shows the box lid getting removed. And then it's our cast of characters huddled around the box.
Yeah.
Like it's a treasure chest.
Yeah, and I was waiting for the Dick Dale song from Pulp Fiction to start. The only time that I ever thought, oh, finally, you got some dialogue right, was when the camera dollies in on Meryl Streep and she's got to make the decision, do we publish this thing or not? And instead of, for once in the movie, instead of her making a big production, she had a moment of vulnerability and just said, let's just do it.
Yeah, and she kind of stumbles over the words.
To me, that one shot was the most interesting thing in the movie because it felt genuine. It took me out of the movie production of it
and put
for
you
a second and
put you in the movie.
She seemed like a regular woman with a lot of pressure on her. And she just said, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, she's doing the best she can to make a tough call with the information she has.
But I think literally other than that, the dialogue was just so dialogue-y. And I've said this before, I'm willing to look past dialogue that isn't hyper-realistic because it is a performance piece. I have no problem with performance dialogue.
Yeah.
But there's a fine line that you can cross where it becomes so performance-y that it loses any kind of inkling of, like, this is how people would have interacted with one another.
Yeah.
And it just, everything is this.
Yeah. Well, it's the difference between jazz and freeform jazz. Ultimately. You know, one of them is whimsical and structured artificially in a good way, and one of them is just noise, just throwing stuff at you. And that's what this felt like. Is honestly, it feels like these two people, Liz, whoever, and Josh, who gives a shit, like, caught the Cliff Notes version of Aaron Sorkin's Masterclass and just kind of ran with the dialogue-y snappiness without understanding the underlying...
But it didn't have good rhythm.
None of it had any rhythm.
Clunky.
It's almost like they watched too much West Wing and said, oh, people talking, that's good writing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wait, no, what are they talking about? Stop, just stop. That's all this movie needed to do.
Yeah, I almost every time people were talking, it was so... And I... Not only did I not know what they were really talking about, I didn't care to figure it out.
No.
So it was a bunch of... At a certain point, I just kind of surrendered and just let the movie play out. Because
Well, I think everybody in the audience did because I don't know about you, I could feel the energy in that room just kind of...
shift. Yeah, just gradually shift to a place of really not caring anymore.
And everybody was just sitting there, staring at a screen instead of watching a movie, which is a shame. You know, these people are elderly. They probably don't see many movies. They're probably not going to have a chance to see too many more. You know, I would hate for them to, you know, fall and not be able to get up tomorrow having seen The Post as their last film. I mean, unless their Life Alert can also play a better movie.
Yeah. So, the score was unremarkable.
I thought it was obnoxious.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was a very John Williams-y score.
Yeah. He's really just phoning it in lately.
Yeah, just like big, dramatic, obvious notes.
I hate not giving a movie any kind of positive note, so I would say that the art direction was pretty on point. The sets and the costumes were all pretty good.
Were good. Yeah.
I don't think there was nothing was there. Like there wasn't like somebody's cell phone wasn't sitting in the background. You know what I mean? It was all 70s stuff.
Yeah, and that part was fairly immersive. I kind of wish they had gotten a little bit more into the actual nuts and bolts of the newspaper publishing, because I feel like there were a couple little sequences of like You know, every newspaper movie has that scene where they're showing, you know, the
running
paper
through the
it
press.
running through the press
Yeah.
and the paper's going out. But the process just before that, I thought was kind of neat, except it was also really on point because, like, as they were drawing out the design of that day's paper, there was literally a big red marker that
Pentagon papers.
said, Pentagon Secrets.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God. Oh, God. We're watching a high school play. Ugh.
Yeah, everything was just... It was such a weird dichotomy of shit because everything was treated in this way to point your eyes at it like this is the Pentagon papers, they're gonna go
They're
there.
bad.
But even though they did that, I still didn't understand half of the movie. Like, I just didn't get what the hell we were talking about.
I think the reason
time.
is because I didn't care. I just didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
like there was
completely.
There were technically stakes, but hey, guess what? If the audience isn't emotionally invested in the stakes you've laid out for the characters, you've lost.
Yeah, and I think there is just a
Liz Hannah and Josh Singer.
There is a part of it that I can't explain. I can't say how do you do it well, but you know, when some movies can do the true story that you know the outcome to well, and some can't. And what exactly constitutes that difference, I don't know exactly, but this movie was not helped by the fact that I know that the Washington Post still exists.
Still exists.
And it's doing fine.
Yeah. What's at stake? Nothing.
You know, it's not the First Amendment anymore because it happened 40 years ago. So,
Yeah.
you know, and we still have that.
Yeah. I mean, not if you ask YouTube, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think that's just the inherent fatal flaw of newspaper movies. Is
they try too hard to be exciting.
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly what it is.
I have no doubt at all that in real life, the people who were really going through this, that it was a nail biter for them in real life. They kept them up at night, and that, you know, it was nothing short of interesting. But I think translated to a movie screen,
doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and I feel like what they maybe could have done was, to me, the movie started to get interesting when they finally just published it. So it's like, I wonder if you just started the movie there, like they had just published it.
And addressed the
fallout. And now you got to deal with the fallout, what the court proceedings and stuff like that.
Does somebody go to jail for publishing classified documents?
You know, what kind of threats are they getting on the phone?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of things were glossed over because the movie was trying to be so broad strokes about it.
Yeah, because I feel
started in Vietnam, and then it went all the way through 6 years later.
And it ended on this ridiculous, unrelated note where Nixon is like, he's on the phone saying the New York Post or the Washington Post will never this and that and this and that. No more photographs in the White House. Brah. And then it cuts to a security guard somewhere, and he like hears a noise, and so he starts walking down a hallway, and his flashlight beam, we follow it as it goes up, and it goes up to a door, and it says Democratic National Committee headquarters.
Yeah.
And you hear somebody on the phone across the street going, I think there's a break-in at the Watergate Hotel. It's like, are you setting up a fucking sequel? What is this?
Yeah, like,
what? It cuts to black. What?
Yeah.
Like, please help me here. I have no idea.
No, I can't.
Like,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know, man. This one,
real hot garbage for me, man. I don't
steaming hot. Yeah, no, complete stinker. I'm gonna have to give this one government dossier out of 10.
I'll be honest, I'm just gonna call it not good.
Yeah?
Doesn't get a number from me today.
Ooh.
I'm just gonna call it.
Ooh.
I'm gonna call it hot garbage.
Hot garbage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fresh off the press.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yep. We will definitely be sure to check out the Watergate sequel when it comes out.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not looking forward to it at all.
Yeah. So this has been Movies Before and After. We will
rethink every decision that we've made up until this point.
And maybe, just maybe, we'll see you before and after another movie again sometime soon. Democracy dies in darkness.
Good, let it die.
That's the new Washington Post slogan. You know that, right?
Is it?
That's a real... When Trump got elected, they changed their tagline to "Democracy dies in darkness."
Oh, God. Ugh. That's almost as cringy as this movie, honestly. I get what they're... It's just like this movie. I get what they're going for, but it's so on the nose that it comes off as cringy.
Yeah.
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 All right.
It's a wrap.
Yeah. I'm going to go put a gun in my mouth.